China, about who dominates the coastlines of Asia. People need to know about all that. It needs to be explained. Jerry, for Christ's sakes, you sound like some kind of paranoid coffeehouse anti-military freak, like Dennis Kucinich or Chomsky or Ellsberg or somebody. Yes, well, they'd probably get the idea right away. Maybe I should tell them. Come on, Jerry, it's Hawaii. It's all about vacations and condo timeshares. Who cares? Nobody really lives in Hawaii. It's not like New York or LA or DC. Come home. Get back in the action. I am in the action. Hawaii is the center of the Pacific. We're staring at Asia there. China, India, Korea, Japan, the Philippines, Australia. That's the future. That's where the action is. About trying to save the local environment and also about control of the Pacific. The military is everywhere in Hawaii. In the next 2 decades, these issues will get bigger and bigger. Where it's located, all the action passes through Hawaii. And a lot of people there get that. They see this Superferry thing as part of the problem, part of a whole century of corporate and military intervention and takeover in Hawaii, and they're up in arms and doing these really moving protests, like when the ship actually got blocked from entering the port by surfers. It's amazing. We shouldn't ignore this. We should get behind it. So then I go into the story about into a scenario explaining who the people are and who owns this company. One of the most shocking things about the story, I think, is that it's promoted as if it were a local initiative and it was a local company and it was all local this and local that, and people are going to carry papayas from one island to another, and that's what it's all about. But it's actually owned by a giant military financier from New York, 5,000 miles away, who operates the project in the interests of the corporation and not in the interests of the local people. And that's a very crucial part of the story that's not very well told in the Hawaii press. The Hawaii press has been pretty good about telling parts of this story. And particularly on Maui, the activist community on Maui has been very, very good about telling the environmental story and the contradictions between the way the boat is behaving, the way the governor is behaving, and what the law is. And that still may prevail. It's back in the Supreme Court now, and we're hopeful that the Supreme Court will rule again to demand an environmental impact statement, and I'm confident they will. And when we talk about this project, we tend to talk about it, we've reduced it down to 4 L's, to the 4 L's. I mean, the book is, I'll go through the book in a minute and just tell you sort of what the content is, but the big picture on the book is the 4 L's. One is localism. That is to say, this project basically has been done flying in the face of the local communities, local needs, the considerations of local sustainability, and the wishes. They haven't even inquired with local people as to what they would really want. And we've begun to think of Oahu as a colonial power in some ways in relation to the needs of the local, of the outer islands. And of course, this colonial power is also connected to a bigger colonial power, this giant global corporation that's really in charge of the whole project. And all of the laws and so on are shifted to make this larger corporation happy. So there's the local issue, the need for local communities to take control. And in Kauai, we had this spectacular demonstration of a community actually doing that. And Maui also has been doing that. And there's even Big Island activity in this direction. So the book was really intended, Koohan read the beginnings of the chapter which describes the uprising at Nauwaliwili. And the book came out of that experience. It really came out of her personal experience. She initiated this project because of that experience, and it's a homily. It's a celebration of that reaction. But we also go into many more parts of the story. The second L is John F. Lehman, the military financier who owns the Superferry. He's the main financier of it. He's manipulated government contracts. He's manipulated government interventions on this project, both on state and national levels. You know, he's a former Secretary of the Navy under Ronald Reagan. He is very, very, very interested in a gigantic military fleet. We believe that this project is connected to some of those desires on his part, and we won't be surprised if the Superferry winds up devoting one of its boats quite soon to military purposes. And the third L is Lingle, Governor Linda Lingle, and I'm going to read you a short passage about her in just a minute. And the fourth L is limits. You know, you live on islands here. Islands are, there's only so much room on islands. There's only so many resources on islands, and it's very easy to exceed the carrying capacity of islands. And it's very, very important that people on islands traditionally do recognize the situation that they're in by living on islands and realize that overdevelopment can be a gigantic problem for them. And I've been coming to Hawaii very, very, very often over the last 40 years, and I've really witnessed the tremendous changes on all the islands, including Maui. And so there are so many projects to talk about which have exceeded really the ability of islands to really easily absorb, and islands begin to lose their, you know, in the title we call it desecration of the earth. Hawaii has a very sacred feel, and it's a very sacred place, and all this overdevelopment, all this increased economic activity, all this no holds barred, go economic activity has reached its real limits. And while the Superferry may not actually be the worst of the projects in the history of the Hawaiian Islands, and certainly is not, we could cite a lot worse ones, including the military development over the years. It's one of the more arrogant ones, and one of the more obviously self-interested and sort of string-pulling external forces, and it's been and people have been made very, very angry about that, and it's therefore caused, I think, a lot of anger and reaction from the public for that. You may also have questions for us on some of those points, and I just want to, before I close and turn it over to you for questions, read you about the fourth L, which is Governor Lingle. Well, it's the fourth. I haven't read aloud the fourth L yet, so it's the third L in the book. It's in the epilogue of the book, and it's called The Villain of the Piece. And this is after we've gone through 350 pages of description about the Superferry, about the legal cases, about the environmental impacts, about the protesters and what they're standing for and what they say, and about the media reactions to it all, and connecting it up to military issues, and about the impact on whales and the impact on safety on the islands and so on. In the end, we sort of assess what we really think about it all at the very end of the book. And here's a short piece about that. After a year of working on this project, we are left with a few indelible impressions and some questions. The single most vivid impression has to do with the appalling cynicism, arrogance, and self-interested behavior of Governor Linda Lingle. As far as we are concerned, she is the villain of this piece, far more so than the Superferry Company, or any federal or state government agency officials, or Secretary Mineta, or Senator Inoue, or former director of the Hawaii Department of Transportation, Fukunaga, all of whom behaved in questionable ways. More even than John Lehman, despite his indifference to local values, his absentee string pulling, his military adventurism, and his well-known right-wing instincts. John Lehman and his business, J.F. Lehman and Company, and their Hawaii Superferry were, after all, just doing what corporations do. They try to further the institution above all other values, especially local values. They try to